with Kimberly Diaz. We're here live at Lone Wolf's Inescapable Nominations. We have Kimberly Diaz here to talk with mothers about breastfeeding and the process of breastfeeding. Everything that comes with it, the latching, the support system, the weaning, the scheduling, having a schedule, all this great stuff you're about to learn from Kimberly Diaz. I'll start the interview by letting Kimberly Diaz introduce herself and give a little background on who she is and where she's from.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Diaz. I am a mom of 4. I am going to be breastfeeding in a couple of months as well. I have breastfed all but my 4th child because they're not here yet, but they're coming. And each experience that I've had with breastfeeding has been different. I am from Wisconsin. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. And I'm here to share my journey with you guys and what breastfeeding has been for me and why I think it's so important for other mothers in the world and in our communities to breastfeed.
Okay. So, like, breastfeeding is obviously a woman latching her child onto her breast. What is the latching process like?
So, the latching process can be difficult for some moms starting off because, it's like learning. I'm going to give an example, kind of like when you first learn how to ride a bike. It's hard at first, but if you get the hang of it and you keep trying, you can do it. The one thing that a mom should remember is have your child latch all the way on the areola. The baby can see your areola because when they come out, the areola is dark for a reason. It's dark so that the child is able to identify where the mom's bosom is. And the child needs to be directly on that whole areola or most of it. Yes, women do have different sizes of breast. You can breastfeed with all sizes of breast. I have small ones and I still breastfed all of my kids with them. And that's what God gave them to me for. So that's what I'm very happy and proud to have been able to do for my daughters.
Okay. So once the woman learns how to, get the baby latched on, how often should they latch them on to breastfeed them?
They should breastfeed them and have them latched for at least every 2 to 3 hours. Now, if you can't do 2 hours, try 3 to stretch it. You don't want to overstretch it because then your breast will start to become engorged. And once that happens, then you're going to have an overflow of milk and your breast might become super hard. And it'll be harder for you to be able to breastfeed because you have clogged ducts. There are ways that you can unclog them. Some of the ways that I learned for myself and from other lactation specialists is I put a warm compress on my breast or a warm towel, or you can get in the shower, massage your breast, and that's an easy way for you to be able to become unengorged. But I would recommend for moms to breastfeed every 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. So with my understanding of breastfeeding, you can not only latch the child on to the breast, but you can also do this thing they call pumping. What is the process of pumping and how do you start it being a new mother at breastfeeding? Even if a mom didn't want to latch necessarily, they can pump. So how would you start the process of pumping? Like, what is pumping?
So the process of pumping, basically what pumping is, and I actually, with my first child, I had to start pumping because my child was a NICU baby. So I had to get a breast pump. You're able to get breast pumps rented through a hospital if you needed to, or I would definitely recommend for you to rent one through WIC, especially if you're wanting to use a pump. They are definitely a must-have for a gift from your baby shower, or if you just want to go purchase one yourself. You can go to Target online, or you can order it through Amazon, anywhere, I do recommend that you do have a breast pump on hand. Your insurance company also can give you one free lifetime breast pump for your child. So to get started, what I had to end up doing was I had to find a pump. I went to my local WIC department, and because my baby was a premature baby, I had to get a medical prescription written out for me to be able to get the breast pump. It was hard for me, but it was easy at the same time because the people that I had in my circle were there on board for me to help me to get this breast pump. So when you do get a breast pump, you are going to have like different sizes of phalanges. You're going to have different pieces that you're going to have to use for the breast pump. If you're a mom that's like, oh, I want to breastfeed and give my child breast milk, but you don't want to have your baby latch, I would recommend that you start pumping right away to be able to start the colostrum process so that your baby is able to get the breast milk. Now, later on in this interview, I will be showing you how to actually put the pieces of the breast pump together. But I will always recommend for you to always have a second hand, I would always recommend for you to have something on hand if you just want to pump. Because giving that breast milk to your child, you're still giving them the nutrients that they need.
Okay. So with the pumping, I understand it pumps the milk out for them, and it's a little bit easier than breastfeeding for some women. How do the mom know how much milk, if she's getting enough milk or if she's not producing enough? How would the mom know with pumping if she's producing enough milk?
So they go based off of the child's stomach size. When the baby is first born, their stomach is about the size of a marble. So you're not going to get a lot. One thing that the formula companies do is when you first give that baby that first bottle in the hospital, if you think about it, their stomachs are this small and they're trying to push off a bottle about this much of infant formula to them. That means that your baby is automatically going to spit up some of that formula. Yes, I do get it. Some moms can not breastfeed. Some mothers aren't able to produce. I don't have enough information to even share that with you guys, but I've met a couple of moms that have had difficulties with that. But all moms can try to breastfeed. It just takes for them to be able and willing to want to do that and have the support system on their end. So, like I was saying, with the whole stomach size and the baby and knowing what they're getting enough of, baby always will show cue signs of what they're going to need. So when you first see a baby that's hungry, they're going to either put their hands to their mouth, or they're going to smell their hand, or they're going to open up their eyes, or maybe cry. You always want to check the baby's diaper first. That way, before you put the baby to breast, you are able to, that's a step that you won't have to worry about. But when you know that your child will be full, because their eyes will get super low, their body's going to be so calm, your body's going to be calm with them. If you overfeed, sometimes the baby might spit back up what they don't need. They don't have acid reflux unless it's something different. But always make sure that you're giving them enough. 1 ounce is what they're going to start off with when they first come out. A teaspoon to 1 ounce is what they're going to start off with, and that's going to be known as the colostrum. You don't get a lot of it in the first day. It's supposed to be only 1 teaspoon to 1 ounce. Your milk supply actually does come in 10 days after the child is born. So you're going to know that your child is going to make enough. One thing that we stress about is what we see in front of us. So if we see it in front of us and we're like, oh my gosh, my child doesn't have enough, then we're automatically going to stress our bodies out. We're going to assume that we're not making enough for our babies. But just trust the process. You actually are going to make enough for your child.
Okay. With breastfeeding, studies have shown that, typically most women first starting out, or even in it for a couple months or so, they tend to complain about their their breast being sore from breastfeeding, how can you prevent or soothe the nipple from soreness?
So with the areola, you're always going to have some sort of pain. But to keep it from being in pain, make sure that the latch is a great latch. If your child doesn't want to latch on and is on the tip, you're going to take your finger, plop it in their mouth, and just simply relatch them again. Make sure that the whole areola is in their mouth. That's going to cause for the pain not to be there. If you do have symptoms of pain, I would recommend for you to call your breastfeeding peer counselor or to call a lactation consultant specialist, because they'll be able to help you a lot more, because it could be different things as to why your breasts are hurting.
Okay. So like, is it like different like medications or lubricant or anything that they can use to help soothe that, or is it something that they have to ask their doctor about if it's okay?
They can actually ask the lactation specialist. I'm not sure if the doctors in the doctor's office give this stuff away, but it is called, wow, I had a brain fart. It is a specific ointment that you could put on your breast. It's called lanolin ointment. And you just simply just put it on your areola. You can use it while breastfeeding. It's baby safe. So when you're done breastfeeding, you can put that ointment on your breast to be able to keep them from cracking. Think of it like a lip balm almost. Like when you put it on your lips when they're really dry, that protects your breast from cracking, and it can help. If it's medicated, I wouldn't be able to help you because I'm not state certified as a lactation specialist. I'm just a breastfeeding peer counselor, so there's certain things that we can and cannot say or give information, but I can tell you, if you need medication, please call your doctor, because they will be able to help, or your lactation specialist. They will be able to get you the information for the medication that you may need, because it might be something different that's going on, and I wouldn't want to give you the wrong information.
Okay. So with breastfeeding, are there like different foods, fruits, anything you can do to help like make it easier for the mothers to breastfeed?
With foods, eat whatever you want. I'm telling you, eat whatever you want. Go for some fruit. There's different recipes out there that you can find to be able to keep your calorie intake high, because when you're breastfeeding, you're going to lose a lot of calories just by breastfeeding. Always have water on hand. If you can't get to the water, have your partner get you the water. Always, if you can, try to have somebody to help you to be able to get you what you need for breastfeeding and settling down. I ate whatever I wanted to. I know they told me to stay away from spicy foods, stay away from broccoli. I ate it all. The reason why they say that is because you're going to be gassy. But in generation, if you think about what's in our foods and what our food is, we're going to be gassy regardless. So eat whatever you want. Don't be shy or scared to. When you're breastfeeding, I incorporated a lot of oatmeal in my diet. And that was to help to build up my milk supply, because I too was one of those moms like, I'm not going to make enough. And I actually was told I wasn't going to make enough. And I breastfed my daughters for 2 years, so I made enough.
Okay. So for a typical breastfeeding mom that's just starting out, what does a schedule look like for that breastfeeding mom? Does it matter about the parent and how their personal schedule is, or is it something that they can work around? How is it?
It's more about the parent. My scheduling for me, I basically said, okay, this is my kid, I'm going to breastfeed. I put everything that my life changed basically when my kid came into the world. So I basically set my life to, okay, these are her breastfeeding needs. This is what I'm going to have to do. And what I did for myself is I set alarm clocks on my phone to wake me up if I was asleep to be able to breastfeed my child. Or if I heard that alarm go off when I was awake, like in the middle of probably taking a shower or something, I would stop what I was doing, go get my child, even if they were asleep. I would wake them up and I would breastfeed them because that was their breastfeeding time clock and that was my breastfeeding time clock. And after a while, when you do it so many times, your body's going to get used to that time clock. So it's going to be like, okay, automatic feeding time. Even if your alarm clock doesn't go off, your body's going to know.
Okay, okay. So does the schedule like revolve around the support system you have? Like,
Not necessarily. The schedule revolves around your life pretty much. If your support system is there for you, that's awesome because you always need a support system to be able to take care of the things that you need to get done. I know for me, during the daytime, that was me and my bonding time and my breastfeeding time with my kids. At nighttime, I would already have fresh breast milk pumped for my child. So my husband was able to breastfeed, or I know I said it. My husband was able to participate by putting the breast milk in a bottle for our daughter so that she could have that bonding time with dad at the end of the day. I did end up pumping, not in the same area as my child, because if you do, they will not want that bottle. So make sure you are far away in a different room, if you possibly could be, so that you're able to pump that breast milk for them. I only pumped twice during the night. And the reason why I did that was because I still needed my sleep. And when my child was awake during the daytime, I was awake. When they took a nap, I took advantage of it and I took a little small nap if I needed to.
okay. So when should the moms start introducing the bottle?
I'm about 4 weeks in. When the child is first born, I would not recommend to give a bottle to baby. Here's why. There's a lot that can happen. Your child could experience nipple confusion. That's hard to be able to get a mom who had just started out latching the baby. It's hard to get that baby off of that nipple from the bottle because there's a different type of suction that's coming in. So I would honestly say to wait 4 weeks in until you start introducing that bottle. The reason why too is because, moms only get 6 weeks off with their children, with their babies that are born. So it'll give them time to be able to bond with them if they just have them straight to breast. I'm not saying, oh, you can't go out to the store, and I'm not saying that you can't go do the things that you need to do for your house to take care of it. I'm saying we should work around that time to be able to still be able to give our babies breast milk without needing to give them that bottle.
Okay. So the support system, let's dive into that a little bit more. Can you just explain to the people, like, what does a support system mean? How was your support system? Who did you have in your support system? Because it gives them a better understanding of how to maneuver in their life and who to have in their corner, and so kind of like give us a breakdown of your support system.
So my support system is probably going to be different from other people in this world because, we are in a generation where there are a lot more single moms. But I'm not saying that you can't breastfeed. Even as a single mother, you can breastfeed. I had in my particular circle, I had my husband, I had my mother, I had my father, and I even had my siblings and their wives that were on board to be able to help and support me. I had a couple of community programs I was a part of that supported me with breastfeeding tips, and I even had my lactation consultant specialist that was in my circle, and my breastfeeding peer counselor from WIC that was in my peer circle. So who I would recommend is the people that support you the most. If they don't know anything about it, they're probably gonna be be more discouraging. So you're not going to feel encouraged to want to breastfeed. So I would try to my best be able to get the resources to them so that they're able to be that support for you once the baby gets there. Because once they get there and they know more about it, then they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna help you to be able to get this done. You can choose whoever you want in your support system, your best friend, your auntie, your mom, your dad. You can choose your partner, your lover. You can choose your husband and your wife, yes, to be able to be in your support system. And even the kids, if you're a single mom and you have children and this is your first experience with breastfeeding, if your kids know about it, then they're going to want to help you to be able to support you to breastfeed. And they're going to be super excited about mommy breastfeeding.
Okay, so like with breastfeeding, I know in latching, let's touch on that a little bit. The different positions with breastfeeding, I understand there's very different positions, and as far as the latching part, like, is a proper way that you have to latch the child on. Could you give us an example of how to latch on, like how to get the baby, like the proper positioning?
I can show you how to properly get a baby to latch. I need a prop. So, I'm going to tell you about the different positions because there's many of them out there that you can do to be able to breastfeed. The first one is the football hold. So with the football hold, it consists of your baby being to the side of you and you having your breasts propped up like this. Your baby's underneath a pillow and your hand is going to be underneath their head supporting their neck. That is the football hold. That is the first breastfeeding position that you can use once baby gets here. It is easy for you to be able to latch your baby's head in, and it's easy for you to be able to do a lot with it. Like, you can bond and look at your child with this cueing moves. I just like the football hold. I've always started out with that. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you're in a more experienced breastfeeding mom and you want to try something different, I would recommend for you to do the cradle hold, which is where you put the baby in front of you and you have your baby actually tummy to tummy. So your child is going to be belly to belly with you and they're going to be facing your breast this way. And then you also have the cross cradle. So the cross cradle, you can is going to be with both hands. The cradle position, you get to actually take away one hand. And then there's a couple more. There's one called the side laying. It's when you're in the bed and you're kind of asleep but you're on your side and you have baby positioned to be in front of your breast. And you're going to bring the child into you. And the one that they have that's newest to most is called the laid back, where you can have your child on your chest like so. And it can be across from you like so. But they're still able to get in and suction onto your breast properly. And with the laid back position, I do want to recommend it's great for when you do kangaroo time. So you can actually have your shirt open and the baby can lay across your chest and they can come down to your breast that way and just lay there on your chest while you breastfeed them.
Okay, so the latching part, the position and stuff like that is plenty different positions. Okay.
So when I first started breastfeeding, the first thing I thought about when I started taking these classes and I started encouraging myself and educating myself more on breastfeeding, the first thing I thought was, oh, I really can do this. I want to do this. My mom actually convinced me to breastfeed. She breastfed me and my brothers. I had a twin brother who breastfed with me. So if she can do it, I know I can do it with just one single child. What really motivated me to want to do it is when my child was born premature. So she was born at 26 weeks. And I didn't know if I could or couldn't breastfeed her. But there are options out there. When they told me that I was able to pump for her to be able to provide that breast milk for her, I was excited. The first thing I did was find my breast pump. And the second thing I did was start pumping right away so that I could save my milk supply so that when my child needed it, she could have it. I went through a very long journey with breastfeeding with my NICU baby, but I did it, and I made sure that I stayed on top of it because I knew all the yummy benefits that my child was getting through that breast milk. When my child was born, I didn't know that she was going to be born so early. But the first thing I did was that, okay, I got to start pumping right away. I have to get this breast milk from my child. I would encourage everybody to take at least 1 or 2 breastfeeding classes. Find them anywhere. They're offered free throughout the city of Milwaukee. And I would also encourage for you to find out more information about it. Take as many classes as you need to, because the benefits of breast milk are wonderful for your kids to be able to have. I'm very glad that I chose to breastfeed my daughter, because my daughter is 8 years old now. Everybody kept telling me that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't going to make enough, that your body isn't doing it or going to make enough for your child. And I proved them wrong. I got up at 6 a.m. I had somebody drive me to the hospital to drop off breast milk to my baby. They would call me and be like, Mrs. Hamilton, your child is running out of breast milk. We need you to bring more. And guess what? Hours before it was for her next care time, I was already at the hospital with breast milk, fresh breast milk pumped for her to be able to have. When I went out of town while my daughter was in the NICU, I brought them 2 coolers full of breast milk that I had stored in my freezer just so that she'd have enough. When I left the hospital with her 3 months later, she still had some of that breast milk that was frozen in the hospital. So I left there with 2 bottles and still 1 cooler size of breast milk for her to be able to have.
So you can either freeze it or put it in the refrigerator.
Yes.
So when you freeze it, does it last longer than the one that's in the refrigerator?
When you freeze it, you can leave it in your freezer for up to 6 months. When you, it does last a lot longer actually because it's frozen. To unthaw it, please do not use a microwave. Please put it inside of a warm cup of water. Let it sit for a few minutes to unthaw. Then you put that in a bottle. Same thing goes for so I do have some storage guidelines that I do want to show y'all. So these are the guidelines that they give us to be able to store breast milk. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because you need to know how to be able to handle your breast milk once it's outside of your body, where to put it, how long should it be stored. So you're always going to store it in not a plastic bag. You're going to store it inside of a milk storage bag. You can get those from Target, you can get those from Walmart, you can get those even from Walgreens. They do sell them. You're always going to label them. You're going to date it. They say to put the time on it. We don't always remember the time of when we pumped. I would not worry about the time. As long as it's dated, that's what you need to remember. You can leave it out sitting fresh for up to 5 hours on the tabletop. If you put it in the refrigerator, it can last in there for up to 3 days. Make sure that you use that breast milk that's in the refrigerator. If you see that you notice that you're getting too close to time where you're not using enough of it, please freeze it. That way that you can have it for later. Always use the freshest milk. You're going to use the oldest milk first and then you use the freshest milk last. It's kind of like how they rotate in the store where they put the fresh stuff in the back or the oats. You know how they do it. Always remember to use the stuff that you've had in there longer first before the fresher stuff when you do freeze it. That way you can get it out the freezer quicker.
Okay. And I understand too that also like you're also an actual breastfeed breastfeeding peer counselor. Um, how did you know you wanted to be a breastfeeding peer counselor, and how does that help you in the process of your journey with your endeavors of breastfeeding?
I knew I wanted to be a breastfeeding peer counselor when I had my daughter. And I went through the experience that I went through. And I went through people telling me, oh no, you can't do it. And I noticed there's a lot of moms out here that are being discouraged from breastfeeding because they don't have a peer counselor or somebody that's there to be able to support them and say, yes, you can do this. And if you work with that person and they tell you, oh, you're doing an amazing job, just having that person to uplift you, which I knew in my spirit that I could uplift people to be able to breastfeed and have the great breastfeeding experience that they need. That's why I chose to be a breastfeeding peer counselor. Because so many times I heard with not one, but actually two of my children that I had, that I was told, oh, you're not making enough. Your body's not going to produce enough. And each time I beat the odds and I breastfed both of my kids for 2 years. I even breastfed my third daughter for 2 years. We would have went longer, but I'm expecting another baby, so I had to stop to save that breast milk for the new baby that's coming in. But that's why I wanted to be a breastfeeding peer counselor, because I had somebody that was a great peer for me, and I had a good support system. And everybody needs that person on their side to tell them, yes, you can do it.
Okay. I understand you when you was a breastfeeding peer counselor. You worked for African American Breastfeeding Network. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And also, I understand you have a project going on with your mother right now called the Baby Calf. Is that correct?
Baby Cafe. It's a Strong Babies Cafe. And what we're doing is we're reaching out to moms that are pregnant or that are breastfeeding to get them more information about breastfeeding so that they can share. It's like a safe space. They can share their breastfeeding with us. And with the Breastfeeding Cafe, it's still in the process. We've done one event that was a success. We did a sip and paint, so we could sip anything that we wanted to at home that was safe. So I have water or juice if I wanted to. And then we did a sip and paint, and then we talked about our breastfeeding experiences. When I worked for the African American Breastfeeding Network, I still am a certified breastfeeding peer counselor through the state of Wisconsin because I did my certifications, and I still am able to be a breastfeeding peer counselor for others. When I worked for ABN, I was a breastfeeding peer counselor, and I got several clients in. Some of them were successful, some of them weren't. It depends on the person though. But I have helped a lot of people be able to breastfeed. Just recently, last year, I had a cousin that was breastfeeding. She told me her first experience that she only made it to 3 months. So what I did was that I told her we're going to set a goal out for her. And so she set a goal for 6 months. Then when she got to 6 months, she said, okay, what do? I said, you keep going. That's what you do. You keep going. So when she set that 6 month goal and she knew that she could overcome it, she kept going. Her child now is 1 year old. She is still breastfeeding her baby. I'm very proud of my cousin because she wanted to give up. And there was times where I'm like, no, don't give up. You can do it. You can do this. And because she had that support system on her side, she did it. And I'm very proud of her. I'm proud of all the moms that I was able to help to be able to get them to breastfeed, including I know I had at least a couple of NICU moms that I had in my circle. I never met these women before, but they were my clients. And I was able to successfully get them to breastfeed their babies to 6 months or up to a year. So that's what my proud accomplishments come from.
Okay. I see you brought some books today. One is called The Wonders of Mother's Milk. One is called Ready to Wean, and one is called Best Milk. You care to dive into those a little bit?
So this book is Best Milk. Yep. This one is based off of the families. This book is to help teach families about breastfeeding. This book right here is called The Wonders of Mother's Milk. Now this one actually talks about like all the benefits that you get from breastfeeding. I'll show you one page in here. So this mom right here, she's breastfeeding outside. There's a lot of moms that probably might be nervous about breastfeeding outside, but if it's hot out and you want to sit on your porch, you can do it. This talks about all the different places that you can go to breastfeed and the beauty and the wonders of mother's milk. I know that there's also a book out there called Breastfeeding for Mammals, and it talks about all the different animals that breastfeed their babies. This last book right here is my weaning book. Now this book is a book to help moms on how to ready to wean. Weaning means when are they going to get off. So depending on your child, they may or may not want to get off. I self-weaned all of my kids. The only one that I had the hardest time doing was my last baby. But I had to get her off my breast just because of my pregnancy. When I was weaning the first child, I went back to work. I got a weekend job and I made a schedule. So I was breastfeeding her one day and she was acting different towards me. So I was like, okay, fine. But she pretty much self-weaned herself from being on the breast. I was a little sad because I'm like, I'm not ready yet. Every mom is going to have a different type of emotion and reaction when they do wean their babies. But if you're ready to wean your baby and you know you're ready to wean, work with them. Don't go cold turkey because you're going to hurt yourself doing that. I would recommend calling your breastfeeding peer counselor or somebody that is a specialist in the breastfeeding field so that they can help you to breastfeed if you don't have that support system on your side.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for coming out and spending this time with us today. Hopefully we can get you back to do a part 2. If anyone wants to comment or anything, letting Kimberly know what they want to know in the next interview that we conduct. You can, once we upload it to YouTube, you can comment down below. Now I'm going to give the time to Kimberly to give any special shout outs she want to give to anyone, any networks or anything like that. Also, my hats are on the table right there, $10 a piece. You can hit me up personally or on Messenger through Facebook at Rico Diaz. Now we're going to give the floor to Kimberly.
And I did want to add in there, these hats are really comfortable and really nice. I have one myself. I just chose not to wear it because of my hair. I wanted it to be, you know, fluffy and beautiful for right now. I wear the hats when I'm outside or if I'm in the car. I do work at a daycare specialist now, so we get a lot of outside time. And it does keep my head from being shade, or if anything is falling out the trees, it keeps it from going on there. And then he does make wonderful shirts. I'm supporting Rico by wearing one of his comfortable shirts because they're comfortable. And this is what I can wear for right now. But I do want to give a shout out to Wick. I want to give a shout out to, personally, I'm going to say her name. Her name is Lolita Salas, and I do want to give a shout out to her to let her know that she was a wonderful breastfeeding peer counselor to me when I was breastfeeding my older kids. I still talk to her to this day, and I let her know about my experiences with my newer kids, but she really did help me to become the best breastfeeding mom that I could possibly be. I want to give a shout out to the Strong Babies program that is with the city of Milwaukee. I do want to give a shout out to them. The African American Breastfeeding Network, I want to support them because they did teach me a lot along the way for breastfeeding. And then I also want to say that there are other programs out there. So if you ever need anything, you can always go online, and you can look them up. If you ever need any breastfeeding support, you can find me on Facebook, or you can find me, I'm on social media, and I can give you breastfeeding support. I'm still certified through the state of Wisconsin, so I did want to let people know that I do have my certifications to be able to give breastfeeding support as a peer counselor. Now, if it's medical wise, I can't help you with that. I can help you to find the resource of where to go. But I just want to give a shout out to Rika for letting me do this interview with them, and for my husband. Thank you for always being a support for me. My parents for always being a good support to me, and my kids for backing me up and being great children to be able to help support me with my breastfeeding experiences.
All right. Thanks for coming out, Kimberly.
Thank you.